Hi, my name is Frank John Burkard Jr. I'm the owner of Burkard Nurseries in Pasadena, California, and I'm here today to give you some tips on herb gardens on a balcony. Now, one must consider is how much space do you have on a balcony? This day and age, a lot of balconies are small, some balconies are large. So depending upon what size the balcony is going to dictate what size containers. Also, very, very important is what type of sun exposure do you have? Growing herbs, we really prefer to have full sun. We can have half a day sun, but if it's dark shade, it's really not worth trying. You can grow things like mint, but they get very, very leggy. So let's presume we all have sunny locations on our patio. Now, on our patio, we have a smaller patio, so what we've considered is smaller containers. So I take smaller containers. Then what we do is when we pick out the containers we're going to grow in, a lot of times I like clay, but you can use cement, you can use plastic, there's all sorts of containers you can use. But the nice thing about terracotta containers, they actually breathe so they dry out a little faster. If you use plastic containers, they hold water and they seem to rot. So what one must consider is after you've chosen the containers, you're going to use a nice organic potting soil. You're going to add an organic starter fertilizer, and then what you're going to do is figure out, what do I like to grow? What do I cook with? Because a lot of people, they'll go down to the local nursery and they'll buy all these different herbs because they think it's really cool. You know, they buy rosemary, thyme, chives, but some of them have allergic reactions to maybe thyme. And why are you growing thyme? So grow things that herbs that you'll actually use to cook with. That's the reason for growing herbs. Although sometimes it's aesthetically pleasing, like we have the variegated African basils that are very attractive. They have a little bit stronger, kind of a clove taste, and maybe you don't want to really cook with as much, but it actually will brighten up your different display of, like your different rosemaries. You have tarragon, you have mint, you have miniature rosemary, you have oregano, you have thyme, you have basil. And again, considering on what you're growing, just make sure that you remember the mints will take over your whole container. So a lot of times we like to isolate these guys or cook a lot with it so that you can grow it to cascade over the side, keep it cut back on the interior so it doesn't take over, let's say, this poor guy. He'll just take over the tarragon and it just crawls all over it. So make sure to trim it back. Another thing is when you're considering, let's say you have a bigger balcony or a bigger patio. Well, certain plants like your bay, this is actually a dwarf bay. You'll get up to about 9-10 feet. And this is the Mediterranean cooking bay. And you can smell it, it's wonderful. But being a large plant, how much room do you have in your patio or your balcony? Also, this is one of your upright rosemaries. This guy can grow 7-8 feet tall. And it's a very nice one to grow, very easy to grow, takes a lot of heat. The bay will take a lot of heat, but these guys will get a lot bigger than these little smaller miniature gardens. So that's one thing you need to consider is how much space. Watering, again, watering all your herbs, you've got to be consistent. I like the method of sticking my finger in, feels dry, you water it. If it feels wet, let it go a little drier. Also, one must remember when you're growing different perennial herbs, tarragon dies down during the winter, here in California also. So what we usually do is we'll put a little tag or we'll leave the little tag so that we don't throw it away when we repot during our winter gardens. So we'll keep the thyme, we'll keep the, the thyme's over here, we'll keep the thyme, we'll keep the mint, and then what we'll do is maybe we'll add something like the little miniature rosemary that will kind of hide it over, or we'll just leave it open. So that's one must consider. And these are very simple tips. I'm Frank Burkard, and I want to thank you for letting me share some tips on growing an herb garden on a balcony.